working closely with the pastoral communities in the country, and they'll be sharing their experiences. So this is a very interesting session. And without further delay, I will hand it to our chair for the session, Ma'am Poonam Guha, Director ST and ST Development Department of Interstate. Here.
Yes.
Thank you, Sridhar. It gives me a great sense of privilege to be here and sharing this session amidst all of you. So we may go to the first participant and also to welcome Nota. Our first participant is Shri P. Arthunari. He is an officer of the Indian Forest Service of the 2011 batch. Right now, he is working as project director OPELIT. OPELIT is the Odisha PVTG Empowerment and Livelihood Improvement Program. Arthunari would be speaking to us on socio-economic upliftment of PVTG families through recognition of rights under FRA.
I take this opportunity to congratulate our ACST department for taking such an ambitious target of issuing this FRA pattas to all the eligible beneficiaries, both individual, community, and also habitat rights for PVTGs, and a mission mode targeting by 2024. It's the biggest ambitious target which under the leadership of our Principal Secretary ma'am and Director ST ma'am, Dr. Ota sir. It's a very huge ambitious target which we took, and we hope that we'll try to complete this process before by 2024. Good afternoon to everyone. Today's I'm going to speak a little bit about socio-economic upliftment of PVTGs by recognition of rights under FRA. First, I just like to elaborate on who are PVTGs, under what criteria they have been categorized as PVTGs. PVTGs are particularly vulnerable tribal groups, and they have been from the year 1976, based upon a committee recommendation, they have been declared as vulnerable tribal groups. Earlier they were called as PTGs, and later on it has been revised to PVTGs. There are four main criteria why they have been called as PVTGs. The number one is the pre-agriculture level of technology. That's a primitive agriculture techniques. The people of PVTGs, they form primitive techniques. Why they are following these primitive things? Because they are residing in a hilltops. Most of the PVTGs, they are residing on a hilltops, on a slopy land, where they could not use, or they cannot use those advanced agriculture techniques. And the second reason is they don't have also bigger land holdings. They don't have any bigger land holdings. They are having only 10 decimals, 20 decimals, on an average, it will be less than a quarter of an acre. That is the PVTG's land holding types. The second criteria is low level of literacy. Since they are situated in a very remote areas where nobody can access their habitations, and their habitation size is also very less. On average, it is less than 30 households forms a little bit of habitations. This low level of households living together, that makes them ineligible for most of the government beneficiaries. Always the criteria for benefits to all other people, it goes by numbers like 500 number of population, 1,000 like that. And PVDGs, they reside in a small habitat. That's the reason why they have been left out for so long. The third criteria is low literacy. The fourth one is stagnation or declining population. For example, in Odisha, we have Bihar community. There, the household is less than 80. The population is almost 350 to 360 as per 2011 census. Such a low population, and most of them are at the stagnant stage. And considering all these facts, our state government of Odisha took a big initiative of collaborating with UN agency, International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD, and took up a project mode. And from 2016 onwards, the project started for 8 years period for overall empowerment and livelihood improvement program for PDGs. Coming to FRA point, why FRA land is most essential for these PVTG communities. They are the most deserving community for getting these FRA titles because they don't know the outside world. They are living in very remote areas in a hilltop, mostly inside forest for ages, and they are most deserving to get FRA titles. Under this public program, we took on a drive mode, and we have almost completed in 541 PVTG villages. We have completed issuing of FRA patas. Now our public program took an initiative in 17 micro projects, and how we have approached this FRA title giving to these PVTG communities. Retired RI, they were engaged on a full-time basis to facilitate PVTG communities because their education level
Somebody in the virtual audience, I think, please mute.
This retired RI means they facilitated PVTG communities starting from conducting Grama Sabha meetings. Meetings, they are helping them, and they are virtually helping them to fill application forms, and they are helping them to pass it in Grama Sabha. After that, it goes to SDLC level and also to DLC level. And they have been doing this work for PVTG communities from the project side. That is why we could able to saturate this FRA applications, FRA titles to PVTG communities. After title, and then demarcation is the biggest issue in FRA, not only for PVTG communities, for entire tribal communities, because the land, the demarcated land, the pata land which is given to them, it is mostly in between jungle, where we cannot even see the directions because of trees and everything. There we need to demarcate. That is the biggest challenge. In some of the districts in Odisha also, they initially they took the help of GPS mapping, but in some districts it was not done, and that is authentic record we must approach so that their land becomes demarcated well enough. And after completing this, we also collected saturation certificate from every villages, every GPs, so that no such further claims comes. In future, this FRA titles, whenever it is given or in a saturation mode, my request is like 3-4 points. One is digitized pattas. That should be a mandatory one because demarcation inside a forest area for a particular tribe, it is very difficult. And once it is a digitized map, then it becomes easy for them to access those entitlement for further developments. The second one is demarcation. Our work should not stop after distributing pattas. It should be properly demarcated in the field. And the beneficiaries should definitely know that where their land is located. Then only the further developments can happen. The third one is land development. Most of the land under FRA, it is it's like a forest, degraded forest kind of thing. Land will be upside down, slopey lands. Their land development becomes essential. Without that, the beneficiaries doing agriculture or any other activity in that land, it becomes very difficult. For that, we need to take convergence from many other departments like MGNRGS, PR department, and we should ensure that the land is developed first, and then later on the beneficiaries themselves, they will be doing all other activities of agriculture and further development and further livelihood. In MGNRGS, 150 days mandate is available for FRA title beneficiaries that everybody should use and to the fullest extent to develop their land and for doing agriculture activities. With this request, and I would like to conclude. Once again, I congratulate the department for taking such ambitious target. Thanks a lot. Thanks for giving the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ordinary. That was very nice and very lucidly presented. Indeed, the 4 points that you mentioned regarding digitized pattas, demarcation, land development, and the most important is the leverage of 150 days under MGNRGS. I think all of us can take a cue from that. Maybe many of us have a question in mind regarding the digitized patta because we have been all talking against digitization. But even in the morning, I was thinking actually digitization can be really made accessible, and maybe fund constraint is there. But if we look at it from the pan-India approach or even from a holistic point of view, fund constraint should not be there. Because when we want to do a thing, we have to look at it from all sides of the story, and that would be actually a very important point. May I take one question, and that would be the only question for this session, for this presentation. Because we have to actually be quick. Anybody? Sir, please use your mic. You're audible, sir. Please. Yeah, you're audible.
I wanted to ask that question was because of time. Problem was if I lost for the time, we are discussing about the private development, but nobody knows about it was non-driver staying in the forest area out there. So Madam asked about whether it is non-driver also get quotas or not. Okay, lies not only for tribals, when both tribal and non-tribal staying in the forest area, in that case, the competing situation arises who solve it. Or it is the Forest department or level department?
It is the DLC, sir, which actually also has a representative from the forest department, that is the DFO. So the district collector is there, the DFO is there. We also have representatives from Panchayati Raj institutions.
Very good. Another problem, non-tribals, they don't go first around for collection of notes, fruits and other things. Whereas the tribal people, they from morning to evening, they collect all these things. So in that process, what care is about that? No, I don't ask about it. Mostly tribals, they enter the forest. Suppose they have paid because of land for them. But even they cannot survive with the paid and plan, they move around in the forest. What about that? Whether they cooperate or they harass them or they allow them, what about that?
Anybody would like to answer that?
Yeah.
Please.
All tribals, except for not being included in the scheduled tribes list, but they have given equal opportunity right in the forest like that, provided they have proved that 3 generations are living in it. So that bona fide them to have access to forest like any of them.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a very nice answer, sir.
For accessing forest produce by any tribals, there is no issue.
No.
Forest department also encourages the formation of village Surakya Samitis, and they are having the access after PESA Act and FR Act. I think there is no constraint in accessing any of the forest. So forest contractors, they forest contractors.
That is an ongoing discussion and we can go on for ages.
There are 2 issues, one theoretical issue, another practical issue. When it comes to theory, the law is clear that tribals has the law is settled. But practically, as you are rightly said,
So now may I request the SC/ST team?
Madam, one small question about PVTGs.
Who's this?
Here. So do you have any village in your area in this Odisha? PVTG village having less than the population or the number of members required to be in the Gram Sabha? Because low level of population, no PVTGs.
We have 7-8 households also in a particular habitation. That too, from the revenue village, there are some 4-5 kilometers away.
Then my question is, at least you should have 15 members in the FRC. Do you have any such village less than that?
We have less than that also, but nearby revenue villages, we have attached.
clubbing together.
With revenue village, habitation and revenue villages.
Actually, what we are doing, we do have the same problem, but government have issued detailed guidelines to conduct a habitation sabha, Gram Sabha. We are not tagging, but we are conducting separately. That is the issue.
We are just conducting in revenue village, and all other small habitations are tagged to that.
Thank you. So now may I request the team from SC/ST/RTI, they would deliberate on mapping and recognition of habitat rights of PVTGs, the Odisha experience.
Thank you, madam.
This is Shweta from SC/ST/RTI.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving this opportunity. I'll be dwelling on one topic which we have been talking about. But when we talk of this Forest Rights Act, so we generally talk of individual forest rights, community forest rights, but habitat rights is also an equally important right. But it has been till date, I would say, it's been largely ignored or has been unnoticed, I would say. And I hope that it will be taken up very soon by the ministry also and by the different states also. So that because it is as per the intent of the act, if we say, habitat right bears a very, very important place for the primitive tribal groups and the pre-agricultural communities. We also have our friends who will be talking about the pastoral communities. So in that case, habitat rights bears a very, very important significance. Having said that, I would like to say that what are the provisions which FR has regarding this habitat rights. Section 3, I won't be reading all, but I would just be saying that under Forest Rights Act, like Section 3(1)(e) has actually recognized the habitat rights as the community tenures of habitat and habitations of the pre-agricultural communities and the primitive tribal groups. So apart from that, the FRA has also tried to define habitat under Section 2H, and it has also various sections where it has also said that how the process of recognition should be there. And particularly here, I would like to mention about Section 12, which says that it is the responsibility of the DLC, the district level committee, to ensure that the habitat rights, the claims are filed at the SDLC level, and these claims are verified in the presence of the primitive tribal groups, and every habitat rights should be actually recognized in favor of the particularly vulnerable groups or the pre-agricultural communities. So with that, there has been always a discussion ki what is the concept of habitat, because FRA has not clearly spelled out the concept of habitat. But it's very interesting, and I would like to highlight here that under Wildlife Protection Act, the concept of habitat has been very clearly mentioned, because it says that it consists of the land, water, which is the natural home of the wildlife. So similarly, just tying the significance and bringing it to the forest rights and how important the habitat rights is for the primitive tribal communities. We did a study, actually, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs in 2015 with support of SC/ST RTI and UNDP. There was a study which was taken up, and we tried to also see that there are various secondary informations and other things. So here I would like to highlight here, it's not that the concept of habitat is new. When we are talking of indigenous communities, the term ancestral domain or ancestral land or the traditional territories has been mentioned. And it has been legally recognized also in various countries like Philippines, Indonesia. Wherein I have tried to also highlight there, I will not be reading again, that what is the ancestral domain, how it has been defined, which says that it is in different countries, it represents the identity, the cultural existence of these indigenous communities or the indigenous cultural communities of the people, which is deeply connected with their spiritual, cultural, social and economic activities to a territory. So these many things are very important to consider when we are actually going ahead with the mapping or the determination process of the habitat rights. So when we are saying that this concept, it includes all the lands, the forests, the waters, everything wherein these indigenous communities are dependent upon for their they have these interconnections or the dependence for their sustenance also, and for their very important is the cultural identity. This is very, very important. So next slide. Yes. So with that, as I was referring, the study has also defined. It is the study now I am coming here. The ministry which it had carried in 2015, it has defined that we can consider this habitat as the habitat for the PVTCs is refers to an area where the communities have both the spiritual and the material connections, which I was defining earlier. So then what can be the habitat rights? It can be the bundle of rights, which is comprising of all these connections with the landscape where they have been traditionally existing or coexisting with the different communities. So here, again, a very important point which needs to be mentioned, that many of these rights, which we will be talking of, are not necessarily exclusive to the one community, but it is shared with other communities who are living in that habitat area based on their age-old traditions of mutuality and the reciprocity. So this is very important to consider when we are also talking of habitat rights selection process. So now I'll come to the experience of what we did, because under the guidance of our director, sir, and we took up a research study actually, and with the technical experts supporting us from Vasundhara team. We did this study, and while doing the study, we did not restrict ourselves to only the research study, but while working on the field, we also tried to facilitate the claim making process, understand how this mapping can be done. And once this mapping is done, how these claims can also be facilitated and submitted to the SDLC level. So the habitat rights, what we did is like, as I was telling of this bundle of rights, the rights may include the right to perform all customary religious or cultural ceremonies, right to protect and conserve the natural entities, the sacred groves or the sacred sites, which we were talking in the earlier morning session, the places for important religious and spiritual purposes, similarly, right to practice the traditional cultivation systems and other livelihood generating options, and right to organize the customary or the social events. So what is the methodology that we adopted? First, while we did this mapping process, we tried to understand the potential of this habitat area or the habitat mapping, which can be done for each PVTG community. So for each PVTG community, what we did is first identification and listing out of the entire PVTG settlements, whether it is revenue or non-revenue. So that's what I'm saying, habitations or the settlements wherein the PVTGs are residing, irrespective of the fact that whether it is a forest area or a non-forest area. So once that compilation was done, and of course, when we were doing it, we took the support of like the secondary documents, like Forest Survey of India, then Census 2001. We also, like SCST RTI has also done baseline survey in 2015, 2018, wherein the villages which were outside the micro project areas, they were also like identified and they were also included, within the micro project areas also. And then after all this compilation thing was done, we started the initiation of this habitat right recognition process. While doing that, the very important factor is the traditional leaders or the traditional institutions of the PVTGs, which was very important, which are actually the very important factors which anybody should consider while mapping of this habitat process. Finally, we have also moved ahead, not only doing a social map or habitat map or hand maps, we have also tried to digitize and georeference, brought out the GIS map of all the 13 PVTGs groups. The steps which we have taken, awareness and orientation to the community members, consultation with the traditional leaders and the FRC members, preparation of the habitat rights maps of the communities, organized gram sabhas in all the various gram sabhas wherein PVTGs are there, or the communities, the different communities are also accessing those areas, those rights. So it is very important to have gram sabhas held in all those villages or settlements and get the approvals of the gram sabhas also. Then we went ahead with the digitization of these maps and submission of the habitat rights claims at the SDLC level. One example I would like to just say that whatever I said, it is just an example. Like for the Juang habitats, Juangs, like as you all know, we have like reputed anthropologists sitting here. I should not be speaking much about anthropological aspects, but by doing that, we understood that Juang has that traditional institutions of PIDOs. So wherein there are 6 PIDOs. So while doing this mapping process, we had to identify those PIDOs and the various villages which are under this PIDOs. So entire Juang doesn't consider one particular area. So PIDO wise, they have their own identity, they have their own socio-cultural or the biocultural interactions, I would say, with the landscape. And that is how we identified the settlements, and then we went ahead with this mapping process. These are just a series of photographs from the field. Like the first one shows the consultation with the traditional institutions, then there was orientations with the Gram Sabha presidents, the district consultations were done, and then the mapping of this claim process was initiated. Again, the Gram Sabha approvals as I was taking, and finally the submission of the claims. These are all, as I was saying, the 6, the PIDO maps. How the this claims were actually drawn in consultation with the traditional institutions themselves. And once these were drawn, then we took ahead with the handmade. These are handmade. Yeah, these are all handmade. So what has been submitted are the hand maps only. But during the research, what we did is we tried to understand the potential area which could be also monitored. So here what we did is the hand maps were georeference with the topo sheets. Next. Yeah, topo sheets, and then we could see that this is again very important, the secondary or the evidences, the documents which could be attached. while we are giving this claims. So for this, like I would say, what we considered was the survey and settlement records, particularly in case of Juang's, the example which I am giving. This is so very established. The district gazetteer, the survey settlement records, it mentions completely about the Juang habitat, the maps, this which was given even recognized during the colonial periods. So various other research reports which has been carried out by our own institute, they were also considered, and other anthropological research studies were also taken up. Next. And finally, this is the status currently. We have like 13 PVTG groups and 20 micro projects. Mapping of all 13 has been completed, and till now we have been able to like submit 9 PVTG claims, which comprises of 14 micro projects. Thank you. Sir would kindly add this. Yeah.
In fact, it was a very pioneering study. The result was twofold. Our mandate was to identify the potential habitat right in consultation with the community, getting it approved from Gram Sabha, get the files, claimed files done, and take it up to. In fact, our mandate was to only identify in consultation with the community the potential habitat right areas. But when we took it up, as a project from the ministry, we couldn't resist. We went beyond that. We got it filed, the claims, and brought it up to the subdivisional level. This is the first of its kind. We don't have a template to follow.
Yeah.
And we have asked government, our principal secretary, such a dynamic lady, So she is now taking it up with the collectors to see that SDLC and DLC, which is chaired by him or her, will pass it on. We expect that by December, probably all our habitat rights will be conferred, which is first of its kind in the country. Second important thing is, which was given the mandate to us, was there is no operational directive of Ministry of Tribal Affairs as to how to go about the habitat right claims, identify and claims filed. So we have done an operational guideline, which we also have submitted to the ministry. And I would request, since there are 75 PVTGs in the country, and we have the highest 13 in number, if any state having PVTGs would like to get how we have done the entire process and the draft operational guideline, just get in touch with us, we'll give it to you. Third important thing I must tell you, this is a mammoth task. 541 habitations and another 1138 included 1700, yes, close to 1700, habitations. Holding, consultations at each village level, or taking 4 or 5 small hamlets, as a block to consider is a mammoth task. This could be made possible because we are associated with civil society organizations who are not doing work to take money. They have not taken a single pie from us. So we partnered them and they helped us out. It is Basundhara. There is an organization called Basundhara who helped us out, and they have a major stake, in the entire process for which we have come to this level. So friends, wherever it is possible, because Odisha has already done it, we have documented, we have video documented also the entire process. The operational guideline is before you. You can follow it, and for any kind of consultation, if you'd like to do, you can do with our team, and we are ready even to send our people to help you out. Thank you.
That was so well said, Dr. Ulta. In fact, in the morning also you were mentioning about the Special Development Council and sacred groves. That along with the cultural markers and including the Gauria shawl that I'm wearing today, maybe that is only a marker to this great occasion. We have been actually all working a lot in the field of PVTG welfare, and even Antunari as the PD openly, he has been working a lot in this field. He had been just recently to Angul and Angul PVD, Jamardi and Deogar. So he has also been sharing his experiences, and you'll be very happy to know that we had organized the state level PPTG dance festival just last month. That was the first time that we did. And Ranjana ma'am was telling us that maybe next year we will be having one national level PPTG dance festival. So as a team, of course, we are all going ahead. And thanks to ma'am and to all of us, including our doyen, Dr. Ota, who actually has been steering the team forward. So thank you. That was very lucid. Now maybe go ahead. I'll request Shri M. Alvas from M. Alvas to kindly present. Shri Alvas is from the Toda tribal community and is the secretary and CEO of Nilgiris Adivasi Welfare Association, Kottagiri, Tamil Nadu. He is also the chairman.
I have a question.
Let me complete. He is also the chairman of the PVTG Council OT and the Tamil Nadu State Tribal Forum. So, sir, before you start, we have one question. Maybe we'll just take that and we will start.
Yeah. Is it necessary that these PVTGs should be tribal? Because there are many groups.
I'm telling you, look, so far, now we have 75 PVTGs. Let me tell you the figures for information of
there are many groups for tribal in real, but they are not recognized as.
There are 75 PVTGs in the country. If you see, your question is whether the PVTGs are necessarily tribal. So this is why I have said yes. There are 73 PVTGs who are either a community as such or a subset of a tribal group. Okay? This is tribal group in present. There are two communities which have not been included as a subset of the tribal group. They are and Chutia. On those two, we have also requested ministry to take it as a special case for including it under existing presidential order this India and we.
So हमारे वहाँ पे कुछ ऐसी जगहें हैं which are totally cut off.
Okay.
But they are not tribals recognized as ST. वो पता नहीं कहाँ रहते हैं वहाँ पे मतलब 15 घंटे लगते हैं वहाँ तक जाने.
वो PVTG में नहीं है.
But they have not been recognized as tribals STs.
No, that is.
Darshan Madhwa.
No, I am telling you one thing. Kindly, listen and record it. You see, inclusion and exclusion under the Constitution in the presidential order is a continuous process. So, if some communities are having criteria, satisfies criteria, the concerned state, with approval of Tribes Advisory Council, can send it to the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. You'll be surprised to know that Kota has sent right in 2022 169 cases for inclusion, either as a synonym or as a subset of the existing communities, and 2 or 3 new communities to be included. It's still lying. So if you have such cases, you are at liberty to conduct an ethnic caste status studies and follow the process and submit it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now may I request Shri Alvas to present.
Thank you, madam. I am happy to be here before you all. I hope this is the development we call it, because the National Consultation Forum allowed me a PVTG to present the case before you.
So that is a great. And I was a beneficiary of Nilgiri Adivasi Association when started my schooling in Ramakrishna Mission, Coimbatore. Now I heading that organization, looking after hospitals, schools, and 200 people are working in our organization. So that is the also real development where I heading the beneficiary as the head of the institution. And today I'm very happy. I salute the Odisha that you are giving a candidate to the presidential forum from the ST community, which will be a model and development of India. So that is great, this thing. So at least I take it. I salute Mr. Ota Ji for giving me the opportunity in the last minute, which I came to know there is a consultation. I'm happy, really happy. You know, the National Resource Center that Odisha, this our CST TRI, that during the 2014, as he rightly said, the National Resource Center. I don't want to go into the details of the problems and other these things in our state or my place, which we can foresee what can be done now in the future to bring the rights of the tribal. Really, I hope, I am very happy that you are all here to give a status to the PVTGs of India and other ST communities. Actually speaking, you know, TRI should be brought into the main fold to address this Forest Rights Act. Even after 15 years, 75 years, we are celebrating. Now 15 years, we are celebrating FRA, almost 16 years. So it is our time, we have to bring it. And another one thing, what we have seen, really we are in the month of July. All good things happened in FRA is July. Because I am just seeing I follow it from 2006. You know, 14th July 2012, there was a conference held in Delhi, and UNDP also followed it in 2015. It is 2015. We had a meeting in India Habitat Center. So UNDP that time also. And now we are July in Odisha. So this 12, 15.
DGIAP informs
Yeah.
even in July, 4th July, America will be.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So this really we are very happy. And 6th July 2021, there is a letter, you know, RP Guptas and Anil Kumar Ji, both the Forest Secretary and the Tribal Secretary signed a letter to all the Chief Secretaries. That is also 6th July 2021. So still, so we hope that this forum will have a successful story after 1 year, that something happened in the Otaji, who was made realistic by the Madam Tribal Dire, and also man, which we want to avoid all the IFS in the Tamil Nadu Directorate, because they are all not giving a chance and against. But today we have our IFS man and here, and we wish.
Everybody was looking out for somebody from IFS.
That is what. See, when I went to Chief Secretary, I told that we are tribals are against IFS. They are not giving this thing. We are telling that part and parcel of forest. Chief Secretary Sripati was telling he was my collector. No, almost there. I posted to them because you will get forest rights. That's why we like that. But after it, some people are worked good and they made a good possible these things. We can't deny. We can't tell that everybody is not this thing. They are all. Even the last director was telling me my superiors are not allowing me. Almost still I'm doing this. He was telling me, sir, I told you, when you are a director, you act as a director, not the IFS man. And Brito sir was there. So these all my problems and challenges in Tamil Nadu. Even though I work in all the districts to see that the forest rights come to true. You know, the forest ACFs are coming. They are new this thing. They come there and then they planted, they have grown potatoes and all. When they bring, they stop the vehicle. From the FRA land, we had a problem, 10,000 rupees they are asking for a fine, which we made the TFO to sit in the office till night 10 o'clock and withdraw. So these things are happening. We call it as a tribal developed state, but a lot of things happened. I made it possible 53 kilometers of forest road become a panchayat road in 2 years' time in Tamil Nadu. So that is the, you know, 3-2, under 3-2 we got land transferred into Panchayat. That is a great thing, something positive things also happening. The bridge is built. And only thing is now problem is in the name of Tiger Reserve. We are going one side that FRA and all. But the other way, what is happening, Forest Department is bringing Tiger Reserves to get the Government of India fund. That always happens, we have a problems. Core zone, buffer zone. They don't know which is they can allot because I want a bridge. You have a bridge which is 3,000 population away. They're telling this side is core zone, Hero district, this side is buffer zone, Nilgiri district. It's a core zone, you cannot do it. It's a problem. So what has happened? Our tribal, sir, this is you have to note. See, our nodal agency is tribal department. In the Forest Rights Act, why we should write to the Forest Department, asking them clarification. We only have to clarify. Our undersecretary from the department wrote to the Forest Department asking clarification. In the core zone, we can have 3 to 4 to development activities. He is writing, yes, you have to write to our Forest Wildlife Institute for getting the sanctioned permission. What is possible? Then what is the FRA doing it? What the Gram Sabha is all about? So these things should be addressed in this thing. No Forest Department should come in all the rights of the anywhere in the core or water zone. So wildlife we are protecting. We are the tribals. We know where to go. They are coming with us. When you tell not to go, that will not it really will be there. Because we are allowing destroying the forest. We know the tribal is there. We are allowing the others to come and cut the trees and go. If I am there, I am protecting. So in this way we have to see, because the time is a little, the strategy told me. So I just want to actually I'll just read it because actually all that is grassy community. And another thing we have to see, grassy community, pastoral tribes. Government made us agricultural community. So now the DFOs and the committee is telling, how can you get your individual rights? You are not cultivating. So now we are cultivating. You are pastoral. So where after the 2006, I'm just before that I'm cultivating. They are telling individual rights. No, it is only grassland is prevented. How can you get individual rights? I'm growing. So these are problems in mixing and crossing over the traditional these things. 2 days, yeah, it's a 2 days good learning session for me. With all you speaking. And another thing, what we have to do, we are telling Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha will come and do. Who is facilitating Gram Sabha? Whether the villagers know that there is a Gram Sabha or forest rights. If NGO is there, okay, they will just tell that Gram Sabha, you this thing, you will follow it up and all this thing. Which department, which tribal department goes to Gram Sabha asking them to come to this? Is nobody is there. This is all like a child having father. So we should see who is facilitator for the Gram Sabha. Who initiates the Gram Sabha to come this thing like that. Maybe another 3 years it will take to get all our rights. So that is in 2012. This thing, Panchayat Secretary is the recording person or formatting, having a book, all the rights. So that we should look into back, whether can we ask them to go and help them or making a book and having the record of the, because what happened, the 600 times we gave it to RDO directly by the Gram Sabha people. After 1 year, we are going and searching, it is not there. Again, they are asking to do it. Is it possible? Where is this thing? So what is our solution for these claims to be recorded? Where recorded? Gram Sabha will record. Who is taking care of in the RDO's office? That is SDLC. So we are telling RDO is not the person to decide. We are telling that as SDLC is the chairman and the 6-member committee is telling yes, passed. Whether we are empowered that 3 members from the tribal community, whether they know what is happening, whether they can 4 department person, 4 of them can tell and that pass this thing, it is not possible. And another thing is there is no clarifying. The members of 3 community members from the tribal or not, they don't know. And who is nominating them? Some officer put 3%. They never come to the meeting. And they are just this thing. We are telling that Panchayat has to propose and Panchayat Raj has to propose the members. And the Panchayat Raj knows when to propose, where to propose. We will ask them. So these all practical problems we have to address in coming guidelines or whatever may be. And NGOs also is there, where NGOs not there, a lot of problem comes. Role of Panchayat Secretary, convening and all these things. In Tamil Nadu, what happened in 2017, because Sampasivam has put a case against this FIA. 2017, nothing happened. Self and Chief Wildlife, Chief PCF retired on Sridharan. We went to the court asking this Tamil Nadu state to shift the case to the Supreme Court. Then 2017 only we got the vacated the case. Afterwards only we were able to just do something in Tamil Nadu. So this we had to say, 10 years nothing has happened. I made a case with the one of the president in the Koli Hills. So now it is happening. There is no definite meeting of the DLC. There is no SLC definite. When is happening, nobody knows. This claimant daily going to the SDLC and going and see past 5 years not convened. Where we have the system, where we want to ask them to do when they convene, when the DLC can convene, when the collector is telling yes, they are telling what is the penal, this penalty is there. He is not in Coimbatore district, he refused to sign the patas. I went and told the collector he is not speaking out. Then finally, what happened? The DFO agreed and signed it. And we are having a class, 1,000 rupees fine or something, the only SDLC will look into it. So there is where is the responsibility of the officers? So this all has to be reviewed and see that mechanism be this thing. You see the Tiger Reserve, I had a problem. I'm running a hospital. I went to Karnataka with my jeep with the medicines. They are telling that before 6 o'clock you have to go. Is it for the tribalists also? I went with the jeep. I went there around 10 o'clock because the elephant came in the area. 2 hours delay. I went to the check post, asked the range officer to allow me. He never allowed me. Then I sent a message to the DFO. He is coming back. He is not picked up. I said, again, I'm trying. He's not picking up. You talk to the DC, sir. I am no this thing. My jeep from 10 o'clock to morning 6 o'clock, I lied in the check post. So what is the use of, they are telling me, don't disturb, sir, Tiger Reserve, because you are getting a lot of EDC, Eco Development Committee, try this thing at all. So I never gone. So what?
I think all of us would have loved to listen, but the point.
Yeah, but it's time. Yeah, finish, madam. 2 minutes, madam. So what happened, this type of Tiger Reserve is not taken our Grama Sabha restoration or this thing, all Tiger Reserves established and relocation is making. But why the tribal should be relocated from the Tiger Reserve? Even before that, they are still staying there. Maybe for mines or something, if you develop, you can send them. But they are just living. They are telling that this thing. What happened? I told them, you relocate all the offices and all in Mudumalai, then our people will relocate. So then what happened? They bring sheets and concrete structure to help them. So this is what in the wildlife, national wildlife in Mudumalai, all you would have visited. So this type of things what we have to see, and we are really have to see the UNDP and Vasunthra. We have to grateful. I used to see that book as my guideline from the UNDP 2015. I used to take training for our officials. This is a great thing in the Odisha. You are present here. The Ota GT is telling the Vasunthra is helping. So this type of people help the this thing. And actually, we have to watch the two not case. Yes, ministers or our secretary also told. There may happen anything because they are passing every month some orders. The forest, the wildlife and all. Because I planted Grievelia and our tribal areas in the plantations, we have 1,000 acres, unable to cut. It's a plantation. Then I came to Supreme Court, 202 case in 2001. All of in India is cutting trees because of me. My IA, 11th 2006 of interim application, I was able to cut now, not the shola or jungle. What we planted for our livelihood, I came to Supreme Court. And now the Supreme Court 202 case for all the states, they put the guidelines for how to cut the trees, how the silviculturally matured, this type of things has happened. So what I'm telling, we have to now do good thing. Our case is in the Supreme Court. We should not go without any say and we should get caught. So this is our national level expert committee should be formed in that go and review in the states, go and review in the districts so that something will happen. And also FRS cell should be there in this national level and state level. That will guide the forces in the this thing. And yeah, the RTOs say, sir, what we have to do, we have to make an election mode. You're telling that 2004, maybe Odisha may succeed. But other districts, other states, Himachal Pradesh, or yesterday they were telling that unable to do anything. So the election mode, 6 months or 1 year, election mode, no transfer of RDOs in that position, no transfer of ranges in that position. To 1 month you have to, 1 month you have to get the application, then second month processing, third month SPLC, and like that if you make like election. Otherwise, it is very difficult to get this thing. These officers are changing. Whatever training you give, 15 days, that officer changing, the next officer is changing, they come back. So this is what we are experiencing this thing, sir. And that satellite mode, we are telling that some officers are telling DFO, no, we will go to satellite and come back. We are telling that the supportive role, not this thing like that. So this eviction has taken place in the Nilgiris. Yeah, finish. So like that, 3-2 Tiger Reserve, the permission Gram Sabha should be there. JFM BFC has come under the control of the Gram Sabha. That is not happening. So all these things we should be mainly you have to do. I think I will finish it because even though a lot of things next forum we all hope that we will meet for the good gathering. So then that time we can discuss a lot of things.
Sir, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
The question is, you just mentioned that JFM and this VSS.
VFC. In our place, we have Village Forest Committee. Yeah, JSS also there. Yeah.
Like you said that they have been made a part of the Gram Sabha. How and when?
No, not made up to Gram Sabha. I was telling that it is their guidance that Gram Sabha is the main in the FRA. Whatever previously having JFM or JSS, all these things has to come in with the Gram Sabha. Ambit of the Gram Sabha. That is not happening. So the JFM is that.
Any pointers like how we can do that?
Yeah, really, the forest committee, we are having conservation committee. We are telling that protection of the wildlife is coming in the FRA. This can be merged. They can brought into that this thing so that the Gram Sabha will take care of the JFM.
Thank you. So the question answer session I have started. If any questions are there, only one question.
So I have made you all to question yourself. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are taking out the Gram Sabha strengthening drive as part of state government initiative. Anyways, thank you, Alwar sir. That was a very lively presentation from your side. And of course, it's very important to have synergy of minds. And yesterday we were just mentioning that generally it is officer-driven model. And it is also felt at the district that it is officer-driven model, but now we need to have a synergy of all concerned, including primary role of civil society organizations. I will not mention anyone in particular, but everybody come together for this important cause. Thank you. We will now request Mr. Vibhor Kumar Deo with UNDP and who is providing technical support to the FRS cell of the Scheduled Tribe and Scheduled Caste Department, Government of Chhattisgarh, to kindly comment. Mr. Deo is a development professional and has completed Master of Arts in Rural Development and post-graduation diploma in remote sensing and GIS. He has more than 11 years of experience in this field. He also gives capacity training to government officers and civil society organizations in the field of Forest Rights Act.
सबको मेरा नमस्कार and thanks to Ministry, TRI and UNDP for this opportunity and speaking about this particular subject, which is a subject of utmost importance. My previous speaker, Sweta ji, also talked about the provisions and the basic the procedures what is laid down in the law. I won't go detailing to that, but just to add one more point to that particular definition of habitat right, that the habitat right is a socio-ecological cultural territory, and to add to that, it might be bound by boundaries, might be or might not be bound by the boundaries, customary boundaries, and it may be or may not be a contiguous patch. That will I will explain later on in my slides how it is. But the slides which I will present will have some of the slides and experiences from Odisha, because my career of working with PVTGs also have 6 years of working in Odisha with 4 or 5 PVTGs. So moving on to next role in Chhattisgarh. Next. Good. So I will directly go to my experiences of working in Chhattisgarh. We started this intervention last 1.5 years ago. Initially, we started with Abhusmadia PVTGs, and Abhusmad is one of the dome of left-wing extremism, for which you have to left the process there and then move on to other PVTs. There are 5 PVTs in Chhattisgarh. No. Actually, it's the slides is not moving. So there are 5 PVTs in Chhattisgarh. Now, currently, we are working with Kamar PVTs, which is they are in 6 districts in as per the survey of Tribal Research Institute of Chhattisgarh, but the habitat spread across 4 districts. And how it is different from the settlement lying in others 2 districts, how it is different from the customary habitat, that will also I will explain. So one important thing that you will notice with this, that these PVTGs which are in Chhattisgarh, the 5 by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and 2 of the another 2 PVTGs, Pondor and Gunjia, they have been notified by the state government, but not by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. That's why we have not included here in this slide. One of the important things you will notice that these PVTGs specifically reside in a particular contiguous patch other than the Bega. Bega spread across 2 states, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Rest of the PVTGs you will find in a very contiguous patch within 4 to 5 districts in max. So this is a unique characteristics that all PVTs is having, including whatever I have seen in Odisha and as well as in Chhattisgarh, other than Bega. So how so before moving ahead to the intervention, the SLMC Chhattisgarh has taken up this decision to work on the habitat rights. And in 2021, the SLMC took the decision that we'll pilot this process in one of our PVTGs. And then there we started working with the Kumar. Before that, we started with the Abhusmadia, but could not succeed due to the extremism effect. Then the state government, the tribal department, wrote to the DLC Dhamtari to initiate this process, because these PVTGs are inhabited in basically 4 districts. That is, one is Mahasam, second is Gariaban, then Dhamtari and Kanker. So we decided to start with 1 district, that is Dhamtari. And so the tribal department wrote to the DLC of the Dhamtari, and then DLC subsequently write to these agencies, SDLCs and other block level officers to initiate this process. So then after that, the Forest Site Act cell, which is there in the state level tribal department, it provided all the technical handholding support to work on this process. There were basically we took this decision to pilot the process in the district where the identified the blocks areas where these PVTGs are inviting, and then we took make the have the orientation process of these officials and of the DLCs, SGLCs, where we discuss on this habitat right and of the procedures provisions laid down under the law. After once we discuss this, then we discuss to have a plan so that how we move on with this process. So a detailed action plan was prepared where we identified the settlements basically using the officers, and down the line, and then make a conservative list of the PVTG habitations. And this was not final, because definitely a more a deeper understanding was required to understand actually where these PVTs are residing actual. But we make a conservative list of this from the whatever the information we have in the secondary sources. Then we allocate the roles and responsibility to the officials to put this an intervention forward. Next. Basically, to initiate this, to understand the habitat, one important aspect we need to keep in mind that before venturing into this process, we need to understand the conceptual understanding of habitat, the constitution of habitat. Without understanding this particular aspect, if you venturing into habitat process, you may end up with a blunder. You may end up with a mistake that will be difficult to correct in later on. So to understand the concept of habitat and the spread of the territorial spread of this, any of the PVTGs which you want to work with, it's very important. So then we decided to hold a pilot study where we discuss with a number of villages. We took 8 villages as a sample, and we discussed with the villages and try to understand what is the concept of habitat for Kamar PVTG as per their customary understanding, as their customary practice. And basically, the purpose was to understand the social formations and which are the the rules, regulations that are governing the society, and secondly to where this habitation lying within the district, even beyond the district. From there on, we came to this understanding that the actual customary habitat is in 4 districts, not in 6 districts. Though the survey says that the population is spread across 6 districts, but the customary habitat is within the 4 districts, confined within the 4 districts. It is because what they say that some of the population might be because of migration, might be because of some other needs that they are residing in other 2 districts, but they are not part of the actual customary habitat. And then other cultural aspects, we came to know some of the cultural aspects, and then some of the territorial information that I'll explain in the next slide. Now, this is the Kamar habitat, and this conservative understanding, this is a very, it was very nascent stage when we took this pilot study, because honestly, I'm speaking to understand the actual, constitution, the habitat, the concept of habitat. It took around more than 6 to 7 months to understand actually what it is of. Because in generally the less outspoken. They're introvert. There is it takes time to build rapport with them, to get the knowledge out of them. So it took around 6 to 7 months just to understand the concept of habitat itself. So that part only take a lot of time to to venture into the process and start the process on ground. And the Kamar PVTG, they say that they origin from the Dev Dongar, and this Dev Dongar lies in Gharyaban district. And over the decades, then when the population spreads out, then they settle in 4 districts. And because of migration, they then settle in 2 more additional other districts, which is not part of the actual customary habitat. And in that Dev Dongar, it's a series of hills, and from one particular hill, one particular clan territory of Kamar tribe have originated, and they have a name to this forest and they have a name to this clan territory. So this is how the evolution of the PVTGs have over the periods have been done, and then when they spread across in different parts of the and 4 districts, there are sub habitats which comprise then collectively they make the total habitat of the PVTG, Kamar PVTG. And the sub-habitat is called as Pali. And Pali, or they also say that nowadays they are saying it as Upkshetra. But originally the Pali is a sub-habitat of the habitat of the Kamar. And every Pali is headed by, traditional head is of each Pali is traditionally they are called as Muradars. They are the Raja of that sub-habitat. And they are the pioneer in decision making and social affairs of the that particular sub-habitat. And also they have a role in the entire decision making process, all aspects of decision making of that particular PVTG. So these are the origins of that which we came to know from this pilot setting. Over the period when we have multiple settings with this PVTG, we came to know all this. So next. So from there on, low or short. So from there on, we got this all the names we identified and then listed out all the traditional leaders. This is because of the law also defines the process to hold a traditional leader consultation to before initiating an habitat right process. And this is important because unless you consult all these traditional leaders, it is difficult to define where to start, how to start, and what is the area, the territory where to start. Because you cannot spread across all 4 districts to start at one go, because it's a large area. We do not have human resource, trained human resource to venture through such a large area. So it is important to discuss with the traditional leaders from where to start and how to start. So then once we identify these traditional leaders, we hold this traditional leader consultation. Next. Then we zero down that we will start from one of the block of Dhantari district. The PVTG is spread across 2 blocks of Dhantari district. Though there are
how many slides do you have more?
2, 3.
Just quickly.
Yeah. So we started with the Mughal Road block, and you can see that in the Mughal Road block there is 1 Pali only, and in Agri block there are 5 Palis. Pali means sub-habitat. But in Mughal Road block, 28 villages of PVTGs, Kamar PVTGs are there. Means the remaining 14 villages come within the jurisdiction of other Palis, which lies in other blocks or other districts. So these are the understanding we grow over the period. It's not like the pilot study resolved this. It took 7-8 months to understand to zero down to these 14 villages of Mughal Road Pali. So the one point I will try to focus on here, that whenever you venture into habitat right, build the proper understanding the concept of habitat or sub-habitat, whatever the nature of the particular PVTG. And the concept of habitat will vary from PVTG to PVTG, and I will explain in the last slide. Next. Then we went on with organizing Gram Sabhas, and Gram Sabhas were organizing PVTG settlements. And let me clarify this: all these 14 villages are not revenue villages. These 14 villages are part of 14 revenue villages, because as the population spreads out, the population grows, these PVTGs are not having special exclusive villages, and they are being part of the some or other revenue villages. And the one particular nature in will be find in this, that these settlements that you say Pada ya Tola ya Hamles, they will lie out of the revenue village. They will be within the jurisdiction of revenue boundary, but they will not nearer to the little far away from the revenue settlement. So this is the nature we will find all across the Kamar PVTs. There will be few villages, I may say that 5 to 10% of villages which are having exclusive tribal Kamar population. So these 14 villages are our revenue villages. These are all part of the revenue village. So we have to constitute separate gram sabhas for this all 14 habitations, because the revenue village will constitute of population from different other tribes and non-tribes. So they cannot take decision about the habitat rights of PVTG. So that's why we have to constitute separate gram sabha and separate FRCs, and then it has to be implemented to the SDLC for further decision making. Next. So that's it. So this is the stage where we are in now, but no, just that map is important to show that. Whereas in the very beginning part of my discussion that I mentioned that every habitat is different. Two habitat concept are there in this is example from Odisha only, where I worked earlier. One habitat is of Paudibhuya and Sundargarh district, but Paudibhuya is spread across 3 districts. So that the first map, you see that this is the constitution of habitat.
We have to wind up the next one.
Yeah.
Speakers, and then we also have the validatory session.
Sure.
And at 5 o'clock, we have a meeting
one,
with Chief Secretary.
Yeah, right.
Neither Rota sir nor can I be here.
Yeah, I will take only 1 minute. So the constitution and habitat of Paudibhuya is different, and the habitat of Mankidia is different. It's a contiguous patch, and I mean, it is bound by the traditional boundary, but the Mankidia habitat is not bound by any traditional boundary. It's basically a park. I mean, where they access the resources. So the concept of habitat varies from PVTG to PVTG. And down, we need to keep it in mind when we are implementing any kind of on the PVTG habitat, right? So this is most important part. So I am going to the last slide. I won't be showing this because the system is slow. The gaps and the way forward. So major gap which we found that there is no concrete plan of action for PVTG habitats, and neither at the state level nor at the national level. Secondly, the guideline, which was issued long back in 2014, was a draft guideline and yet to be issued by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. And there is a committee formed for this. Hopefully, that committee take a decision, and then soon it will be released. Now, secondly, there is no trained resource person or any kind of, human and financial facilities that which help the PVT, habitat right process to take on in different parts. And so for that, the TRIs need to be involved, because this is a think tank which support technical assistance to the government on different aspects of tribal development, and it is one more important aspect of tribal development habitat right. So we need to take TRAs into fold and in all states. And thanks to that, TRA Odisha is taking action in the habitat right. Hopefully other states will. So this is all about habitat right, what we have started in Chhattisgarh in nascent stage, but we are hopeful that in recent near future we will be having some concrete results. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a very brilliant expression of the work that you have done on habitat rights. We'll reserve our questions. We'll take one more speaker. After that, we'll club the questions. So I will request Ms. Viona Mohan to kindly come up. Ms. Mohan is currently associated with the Center for Pastoralism as the National Coordinator for the FRA program. She is managing the program alongside partner organizations in 5 states, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Maharashtra, to ensure access for grazing in protected areas. She'll be speaking to us on recognition of rights of pastoral communities under FRA, key issues and challenges.
Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizing committee to give me this opportunity. Before I get into the key issues and challenges,
I think it'll be useful to briefly introduce pastoralism as a concept because it might be new to a lot of us here. So pastoralism is basically a system of migration-based herding, use of common pool resources, which contributes approximately 50% of the household income. There are approximately 50 distinct communities, 20 million pastoralists across 3 geographies, broadly the Himalayan mountains, the arid and semi-arid lands of Western India, and a large part of the semi-arid Deccan Plateau. So they follow both vertical migration patterns as well as horizontal migration patterns. Example of a vertical migration pattern would be in Himachal Pradesh. The Gaddi move down from Himachal Pradesh all the way to Punjab, and then a horizontal migration pattern would be the Rabari, who go from Gujarat to Chhattisgarh to Telangana. I would like to bring everyone's attention to section 3.1d because it's particularly important in relation to pastoral communities. Okay. So you can just briefly go through it because we have very little time. So these are some of the key issues and challenges. Actually, we had a national consultation on pastoralism in the FRA, and these are the critical issues that have come up during that particular discussion. Sorry, eyesight problem. I wasn't able to see the slides. So the first issue is social status of pastoralists. So in many states, particularly Uttarakhand, it was reported that some communities, such as the Van Gujars, have ST status in Jammu Kashmir, but we do not have ST status in Uttarakhand. And often this is a challenge when they are accessing claims. In non-scheduled areas also, we found there to be a lot of challenges because they usually, officials claim that FRA can only be, applicable in scheduled areas, and then you have to explain that non-scheduled is also included. So that's another challenge that we often face. Then there's also lack of tenure security and access to forests and protected areas, particularly in wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, tiger reserves, notifications of critical wildlife habitats. This is an issue that's come up a lot in Maharashtra recently because there's been notification of a lot of critical wildlife habitats. So because of that, pastoralists have been restricted access in protected areas. There's also been a lot of lack of awareness basically on legal rights of FRA. Both between amongst pastoral communities as well as the government functionaries that we would have to often interact with. We've also found that there are non-functioning DLCs and SDLCs, particularly in Kutch and Saurashtra. This issue has come up a lot when we are filing for claims. Forest Department is a nodal agency. This was something that was brought up yesterday by our friends in Jammu Kashmir. I would also like to bring up in Uttarakhand, actually, the Social Welfare Department and not the Tribal Department is the nodal agency, and that's important to note. There's also issues of inter-district and interstate claims. So as I just talked about how pastoral communities usually move across states and across districts, claims have to be settled in both states, and this is again has been a huge challenge for pastoral claims. Many CFR claims are pending with authorities, and CFR titles have not been issued. An important case of this is Bunny, where 47 claims have been approved by the DLC, but still titles have not been given. There's also been a lot of diversion of pastoral land because of tourism, infrastructure, energy development, and mining. There have been several cases, court cases, eviction notices. Recently, the Madras High Court, there was an important judgment which restricts the access of pastoral communities in the Nilgiris. Extremely rushed process of FRA implementation and imposition has been brought up several times. There's also the issue of restricted access in border areas, particularly Ladakh, with the Jangpa community who have to often, are restricted by border security forces in that region. And yesterday there was a conversation on the intersectionality of law and how there are certain state and central laws that have impacted the FRA, particularly the Wildlife Protection Act and divergence because of CAMPA. I think that conversation is very important, and as it was mentioned, we need to prioritize. Keeping in mind section 4.1, which says that FRA overrides all other acts. Some of the key initiatives that we've seen in the last few years has been that the Bunny Breeders Association in the work with Jeevan in claiming 47 claims were submitted, and they have been approved by the DLC. Pastoral CFR has been ongoing in the state of Himachal Pradesh for a very long time now, and has resulted in the acceptance of 28 claims in Kangra, 7 in Chamba, and 17 in Lahore. In Uttarakhand, a key achievement was that for the first time, the first CFR pastoral claim was accepted in Uttarkashi district. And in 2020, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs actually constituted an expert committee under the chairmanship of Dr. Rishikesh Panda. Mr. Ramesh Pati is a member of that expert committee, and he'll talk about it a little bit more in detail later. And that committee came up with a guideline, which is yet to be released. These are some of the communication material that we've developed in order to facilitate the CFR claims, particularly for pastoral communities, because of the complications of inter-district and interstate claims. There are many recommendations, but the main recommendation is it is our request that the Ministry of Tribal Affairs releases the guidelines of the expert committee, which was formed for pastoralism in the FRA, because it will resolve a lot of the problems, a lot of the key issues and challenges that I just raised have been addressed in that expert committee report. Lastly, before I end, I would like to talk about 3 major contributions of pastoral communities, and I want to talk about these contributions because these are very important, because they're directly threatened by restrictions faced by pastoralists from entering forest and the delay in settling their CFR claims. Firstly, the milk economy. It is reported by herders in almost all states the restrictions have forced them to transition to stall-fed systems that have reduced the quality of milk produced by the livestock. Free-ranging animals are known to produce better quality of milk. The one butchers from Uttarakhand will tell you that when their Gojri buffalo feed on grass and herbs from Himalayan wintry pastures, they produce milk that is high in nutrition and even has medicinal properties. Restrictions have forced them to sedentarize, and as a result, the quality of milk has also reduced significantly. There are also some indigenous breeds that just cannot be sedentarized, such as the Gojri buffalo and the Bunny buffalo, that require constant movement. If they are forced to sedentarize, then their lifespan significantly reduces. The entire sheep population of 75 million sheep is entirely managed by pastoral communities, and therefore indigenous wool economy is severely threatened by restrictions of pastoral communities. Now let's talk about the environment. Yesterday's presentation on Himachal Pradesh talked about how forest fire cases have increased such as also the case in Uttarakhand, where forest fire cases have increased in Rajaji National Park. As it is suspected that a major contributor to this is the overgrowth of grass and forests, that were earlier grazed by pastoral communities who used to come into the winter pastures. You can relate that restrictions have also increased a direct impact of restrictions of butchers into the forests of Rajaji National Park. A good example also of how indigenous knowledge and biodiversity of pastoral communities is integral. 27 CFR MCs, which were formed in Bunny, have restored 3,000 hectares of land from 17 and have increased the palatable grass species from 70 to 108. And therefore, pastoral communities cannot be excluded from forest conservation. Breeds. 47% of the indigenous breeds have been developed by pastoralists. As mentioned earlier, restrictions have threatened breeds such as the Gojri buffalo and Bunny buffalo. There are several government programs which are towards protection of indigenous breeds and conservation of indigenous breeds. For example, Mission Local, that aims to preserve indigenous breeds of livestock. The decline and death of pastoralism due to forest restrictions directly threatens this objective of indigenous breed conservation. We started this consultation yesterday with the FRA Mission 2040, and today the Secretary of Ministry of Tribal Affairs spoke about FRA Plus. So far, after 16 years of implementation of pastoralism, implementation of FRA, pastoralists have been kept out of the ambit of implementation. Going forward, however, it is imperative to include pastoralism in our goals and agendas, particularly in the context of FRA. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now one question for Ms. Diona. Anybody? It's a very different concept. And we also have one more question for the previous speaker, if anybody would like to ask. Otherwise, we'll go
all
on.
these pastoralist community with regard to this biodiversity management and बायोडाइवर्सिटी का बड़ा जबरदस्त रोल हो सकता है, implement the biodiversity act. Can you say something about that?
Yes, I definitely agree. And I think I mentioned it earlier also that these communities have been following these traditional paths for generations, for thousands and thousands of years. So there's literally nobody who knows indigenous species of grasses, of trees better than them. In fact, it's just a conversation with a one Gujar will tell you that there is nobody, no conservationist who knows the forest better than them. And therefore, you see that the newer generation is kind of not going into pastoralism because of these restrictions, because it's no longer profitable. The cows are not producing enough milk. And with it dies that knowledge, that indigenous knowledge. Yeah.
May I have a kind of, madam? Yeah, with your permission. May I request the August House to have a kind of before leaving, I'm just going to leave, before leaving, I have a request to the kind of national seminar. Can we have a resolution regarding this dissolution of JFMC, EDC, and all other existing committees? Once this CFR Protection and Management Committee is being done, so can we have this resolution and send to the MOTA and MOE clear kind of, because of this, there are so many issues coming up. Can I request Mr. Ota to have a kind of resolution on this particular? Can we have a clear direction from the MOTA in Chhattisgarh that proposed before the government? But once the formation of CFR Protection and Management Committee under 4.1e of rule of the FRA, all the existing JFMC, whatever EDC.
See, the very basic purpose as to why we are conducting this Twitter workshop is a consultative workshop. And whatever issue comes to your mind, including this, since you have said already there's certain things, we cannot recommend, but we can say that this thing cropped up during the course of the discussion. And the respective state government should get a clarification in this regard. Certainly we will put it, but I am not the person who can.
We will not recommend, but maybe we can.
We can ensure this,
highlight
but certainly this is an area of concern, which is plaguing, to take it forward. It's certainly flagging.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Ms. Fiona. Our next speaker is Mr. Ramesh Bhatti. Shri Bhatti works with Sahajivan. It's based in Gujarat since 2000. Over this time, he has led the organization's work on pastoralism, including the revival of a livestock-based livelihood in Kutch, institution building among pastoralist communities in the region, and facilitating the submission of a community's claim to manage the Bunny grasslands.
Yeah, मुझे मालूम है कि सबका ध्यान चाय में लगा है, पर मुश्किल है जब लोगों का पूरा मन चाय में लगा हो और हम और कुछ बात करें। मुझे 5 मिनट दी गई है ओटा साहब की तरफ से। मैं 3 मैसेज कन्वे करना चाहता हूं, अगर मेरा प्रेजेंटेशन शुरू हो जाए। मेरा एक सवाल है पूरे सदन से, जब सबका ध्यान चाय में है कि आज देश में सबसे महंगा दूध किस जानवर का है, बताइए। कोई कुछ भी गप्पा लगा दो, किस जानवर का दूध सबसे महंगा है? राइट, शायद आप पास्टरल रीजन से आते हैं इसलिए आपको मालूम है। नेक्स्ट करना है। मैं जस्ट 1-2 मतलब ऐसी स्लाइड से मैसेज देना चाहता हूं कि पास्टरल कम्युनिटी से इस कंट्री में ये इस डिस्कशन में भी मैंने उनका प्रेजेंस बहुत ही कम देखा। क्या हम इस चर्चा के थ्रू पास्टरल सीएफआर राइट्स है उसके ऊपर हम थोड़े से कदम उठा सकते हैं क्या? आप मानोगे नहीं, गधे का दूध 7,000 रुपये लीटर बिकता है और मेरे एक साथी मालदारी उसने बेचा भी है। और हर रोज अभी मेरे कलीग ऋतुजा आई है यहाँ पे, ऋतुजा 1 मिनट आप खड़ी हो जाओ अगर, उसके पास हर रोज गद्दों की डिमांड आती है, हमें 10 गद्दे चाहिए, 20 गद्दे चाहिए, ट्रक भर के गद्दे चाहिए, उनको पूछो। और वो डिमांड आती है आंध्र प्रदेश, कर्नाटका, तेलंगाना, तमिलनाडु और राजस्थान से, क्योंकि गधे का दूध कॉस्मेटिक के लिए इतना अब डिमांड है, सब औरतें बहुत ब्यूटीफुल होना चाहती हैं, इवन आदमी भी, तो गधे के दूध से वो अपने आप को सुंदर बनाना चाहते हैं। आज हम लोग करीबन 10 लीटर हर रोज के दूध 190 रुपए लीटर बेच रहे हैं। या साथ साथ में ऊंट का दूध आपने शायद सुना होगा, अमूल ऊंट का दूध, चॉकलेट, एवरीथिंग इज सेलिंग इन मार्केट। वो कच्छ से शुरू हुआ है और ये पास्टोरल कम्युनिटीज बेच रही है। अब मैं जल्दी से जाऊंगा, ये व्यू ने बता दिया हमारे देश में करीबन, मैं ऑटो साहब एक रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहता था कि ये पूरा जो ट्राइबल रिसर्च चलता है उसमें कहीं पास्टरलिज्म का कोई रिसर्च हुआ है क्या? कितने पास्टरल कम्युनिटीज है, कहाँ पे है, कौन है, क्या करते हैं? मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ सर कि जब से आदमी सिविलाइज हुआ तब से ये लोग जंगल के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। ये पूरी तरह से ट्राइबल है और पूरी तरह से जंगल के साथ आज भी रहते हैं। क्यों वो कहीं पे हमारे ट्राइबल रिसर्च में नहीं है? क्या उनको लिया जा सकता है? तो मैं बहुत खुश होऊंगा अगर कोई पास्टरल कम्युनिटीज के बारे में कुछ रिसर्च अगर सामने आता है। जस्ट देखिए कि करीबन पूरे कंट्री में अलग अलग कम्युनिटीज है जो आपको ऊंट, गधे, बकरी, भेड़, याक सबके साथ आपको देखने को मिल जाएंगे। ये गुजरात का माइग्रेशन पैटर्न है सर। कच्छ के मालधारी आपके छत्तीसगढ़ तक आते हैं। मैंने छत्तीसगढ़ के लोगों को रिक्वेस्ट किया है कि वहां पे एटलीस्ट निस्तार राइट में उनका एक क्लेम अगर जाता है तो हमारे कच्छ गुजरात के जो रबारी लोग हैं उनको ग्रेजिंग राइट और निस्तार राइट मिलने की संभावना है। ये रायका है जो मध्य प्रदेश में जाते हैं और काफी सैकड़ों की तादाद में है। ये बन्नी के मालधारी है जिन्होंने 2500 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर का ट्रॉपिकल ग्रासलैंड है, उसके ऊपर उन्होंने अपना क्लेम अप्रूव करवा लिया है। भेड़ बकरी वाले हैं जो सौराष्ट्र में है, भेड़ रखते हैं और ये जो रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट है, प्रोटेक्टेड फॉरेस्ट है, उसमें अपनी भेड़ चला के अपना जीवन का गुजारा करते हैं। ये धनगर कम्युनिटीज है, ये अक्रॉस द कर्नाटक और महाराष्ट्र में देखने को मिलते हैं। ये तमिलनाडु के मालधारी है, ये लद्दाख में भी है और लद्दाख में भी काफी सारे प्रोटेक्टेड एरियाज है। ये ऊंट जो कि कच्छ में पर्टिकुलर जट ट्राइब से वो उनको ग्रेजिंग करवाते हैं। अब मैं 1 मिनट बन्नी ग्रासलैंड की बात करूंगा। ये फाइनेस्ट ग्रासलैंड है और पूरे एशिया में सेकंड लार्जेस्ट ट्रॉपिकल ग्रासलैंड है सर ये। यहाँ पे देखोगे एक ही ग्रासलैंड में गाय, भैंस, भेड़, बकरी, गधा, एवरीथिंग यू विल सी। इवन द माइग्रेटरी बर्ड्स फ्रॉम द साइबेरिया, विंटर की सीजन में बहुत सारे माइग्रेटरी बर्ड्स आते हैं। और जो आपने सुना होगा कि कच्छ नहीं देखा तो कुछ नहीं देखा, वो धोरडो रणोत्सव इसी बन्नी ग्रासलैंड में है। वहां के मालधारी टोटल जो 2500 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर का जो ग्रासलैंड है उसको कॉमन प्रॉपर्टी यूज करते हैं, नहीं कि इंडिविजुअल। उन्होंने अपने एक इंस्टीट्यूशन बनाया है, बन्नी ब्रीडर्स एसोसिएशन, और उन्होंने 2012 में एक कैंपेन किया कि बन्नी को बन्नी रहने दो और एफआरए इंप्लीमेंट करो। एक गुजरात सरकार ने जो इनिशिएटिव लिया उसके बारे में मैं जस्ट आपको बताना चाहूंगा कि ये कैंपेन के बाद में गुजरात सरकार ने नॉन शेड्यूल्ड एरिया में फॉरेस्ट राइट्स एक्ट को इंप्लीमेंट करने का एक अलग से नोटिफिकेशन निकाला। अदरवाइज इंप्रेशन ये था गुजरात में कि एफआरए सिर्फ शेड्यूल्ड एरिया में लागू होता है, पास्टोरल एरिया में लागू नहीं होता है। या हम लोगों ने उनकी ट्रेनिंग की और किस तरह से ग्राम सभा होगी, ये सारी प्रक्रियाएं हुई। बाकायदा वहां पे कलेक्टर ने पूरी प्रक्रिया इनिशिएट की, वहां पे मीटिंग हुई सरकार की तरफ से, एसडीएलसी आई, वहां पे ग्राम सभाएं भरी गई, एफआरसी बनी। फिर ये एक जो ग्राम सभा है, ये जो बड़ा मीटिंग है वो महासभा बोला, क्योंकि वहां पे 47 ग्राम सभा है और सब लोगों का जो क्लेम है वो एक ही टाइप का है सर। 2500 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर के इलाका में एक गांव की भैंस 100 किलोमीटर दूर दूसरे गांव में ग्रेजिंग को जाती है, वो गांव की भैंस और गाय इस गांव में आती है, तो ओवरलैपिंग काफी है। तो सब लोगों ने मिलकर ये तय किया कि हमारा जो क्लेम है वो सिंगल क्लेम है, लेकिन अलग अलग गांव का अलग अलग क्लेम है। ये टाइप के राइट्स उन्होंने वहां पे माने। रिस्टार एनटीएफपी, माइग्रेटरी कन्वर्जेंस ऑफ फॉरेस्ट विलेज, ये एक इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है। 31H जो है पूरा बन्नी ग्रासलैंड आज भी फॉरेस्ट है, वहां पे एक भी गांव को कोई रेवेन्यू राइट्स नहीं है। उनका मकान भी आज उनके नाम पे नहीं है, ना इंदिरा आवास, ना सरदार आवास, कोई किसी भी स्कीम का बेनिफिट उनको नहीं मिल रहा क्योंकि ये अनसर्वेड एरिया है। एक चीज ये है कि वहां पे 47 क्लेम अप्रूव हो चुके हैं, उसका लेटर भी है वहां पे, पर उनको टाइटल्स नहीं दिए गए हैं। और ये 2 लेटर देखिए जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ ट्राइबल अफेयर्स की तरफ से स्टेट गवर्नमेंट गुजरात को 2 बार चिट्ठियां लिखी गई है कि बन्नी ग्रास लैंड के जो टाइटल अप्रूव क्लेम जो अप्रूव हो चुके हैं उनको आप टाइटल दे दीजिए, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली अभी तक वहां पे टाइटल नहीं दिए गए हैं।
Ministry has given in writing to.
राइटिंग सर, या सी देयर आर 2 लेटर्स सर, 2 लेटर 2 बार सेक्रेटरी ऑफ ट्राइबल डेवलपमेंट डिपार्टमेंट गुजरात को गई है कि आप ये जो क्लेम अप्रूव हो चुके हैं उनको आप टाइटल दे दीजिए। 2015 में टाइटल क्लेम अप्रूव हो चुके हैं, अभी तक टाइटल नहीं मिला है। ये लोग अपने आप अपने हिसाब से अपने जो ग्रासलैंड है उसको उन्होंने राइट्स को असर्टेन करना शुरू कर दिया है। फिजिकली वहां पे प्रोसोपिस जूलिफ्लोरा बहुत डेंस है और उसने पूरे ग्रासलैंड को खत्म कर दिया। तो लोगों ने अपने आप सीएफएमसी सॉरी जो सीएफआर एमसी है वो बनवाई है और अपने हिसाब से वो काम करना उन्होंने शुरू कर दिया है। एक इम्पोर्टेंट चीज, कच्छ में ये खाराई नाम का एक कैमल ब्रीड है जो कि समंदर में स्विम करके 2-2.5 किलोमीटर मैंग्रोव फॉरेस्ट के ऊपर ग्रेजिंग करता है, और पूरी दुनिया में सिर्फ और सिर्फ कच्छ और कराची पाकिस्तान में है। कुछ तो एक टाइम पहले कराची और कच्छ तो एक थे, अलग नहीं थे, वो कोस्ट में ये खाराई कैमल देखते हैं और एंडेंजर्ड स्पीसीज है। अब सिर्फ 2000 कैमल्स वहां पे बच गए हैं और काफी बड़ी मात्रा में मैंग्रोव की कटाई हो रही है। वहां पे फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट इनको अलाउ नहीं करता है ग्रेजिंग के लिए, तो ये कैमल्स भी काफी स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं सर्वाइव करने के लिए, क्योंकि उनको वहां पे फॉरेस्ट राइट्स एक्ट के तहत टाइटल्स नहीं दिए जाते। ये गुजरात सौराष्ट्र में और जगहों पे भी काम हमारा चल रहा है। एक इम्पोर्टेंट बात जो वियोना भी करना चाह रही थी, मैं खुद वो एक्सपर्ट कमेटी का हिस्सा था जो 2020 में बनी थी। पूरे कंट्री में जो पास्टरल कम्युनिटीज है जहां जहां पे, उनके साथ कंसल्टेशन करके हमने पूरा एक रिपोर्ट बना के मिनिस्ट्री को सबमिट कर दिया है पिछले अगस्त में। अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो रिपोर्ट या वो गाइडलाइन अभी तक पब्लिश नहीं हुई है। इस सदन को, ओटा साहब को और मैम को मेरा एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि हम सब मिलके अगर मिनिस्ट्री को रिक्वेस्ट करें कि जो गाइडलाइन हमने बना के दी है मिनिस्ट्री को, एटलीस्ट उसको फाइनल करें, उसको अप्रूव करें, ताकि पूरे कंट्री में जो 70 पास्टोरल कम्युनिटीज है उनका पूरा जो संघर्ष का जो जवाब है वो उस गाइडलाइन में है। और ये गाइडलाइन आने से पूरे देश में पास्टरलिस्ट को राइट्स मिलना शुरू होने की एक पूरी संभावना है। तो एटलीस्ट वो गाइडलाइन मिनिस्ट्री की तरफ से पब्लिश की जाए। जो 2-3 एक्सपेक्टेशंस थे उसमें, एक तो गाइडलाइन थी, दूसरा ये बन्नी का क्लेम मिल जाए, ट्रेनिंग होना भी बहुत जरूरी है और मिनिस्ट्री की तरफ से ट्रेनिंग मटेरियल लिटरेचर पब्लिश करना भी जरूरी है। और एक आखिरी सर बात मैं फिर से दोहराऊंगा कि ट्राइबल रिसर्च में क्या पास्टोरल रिसर्च सेंटर ऐसा कोई सब डिवीजन, छोटा सा डिवीजन बनाने की कोई अगर संभावना है, मेरे हिसाब से कंट्री को बहुत फायदा होगा। थैंक यू।
Thank you. We'll go to our next speakers, Dr. Raja Muzaffar Bhatt and Dr. Rauf Malik, both from Jammu and Kashmir.
I can only tell you, whatever you have said, we can put it as points of discussion. What will take it I can assure you,
yeah,
we will put it on reports. And again,
Yeah, that can be.
Dear friends, I'm thankful to SC/ST/RTI Director Oda Sahab for inviting us and giving us an opportunity to throw some light on with regard to implementation of Forest Rights Act in Jammu and Kashmir. I'm thankful to Shweta ji, who has been constantly in touch with me. And overall, I'm thankful to Mr. V.K. Rizal, who has been in touch with us for the last 2 years. because the Forest Rights Act got implemented in J&K only after abrogation of Article 370. But I already told yesterday that never an impediment in extending the because many central laws have extended to even before abrogation of Article 370, like laws, armed forces powers, like many laws. Anyways, finally, this law got enacted to present this is about even before this enactment of Forest Rights Act, extension of Forest Rights Act, we had certain rights given to the tribal communities or the pastoralist communities. They used to grow their vegetables near their huts, and they had certain rights like burying their relatives. They had graveyards, but unfortunately, after enactment of this law, after extension of this law, because the Forest Department has been made the nodal agency to implement the Forest Rights Act, so the forests they have become more possessive about the forests, Forest Department, and that's why that is hampering the process of implementation of Forest Rights Act in Jammu and Kashmir. तो जहां तक इस लॉ की बात है, अभी बहुत ही स्लो चल रहा है, बहुत ज्यादा स्लो चल रहा है, और इसके लिए जो है अभी बहुत काम करने की जरूरत है. जहां तक हमारी कम्युनिटी वहां पे है, पैस्टरलिस्ट कम्युनिटी, चौपान कम्युनिटी, that's traditionally they are the tribals. मैं दिखाने वाला भी था यहाँ पे, वो नहीं मिल रहा है, इनका फोटोग्राफ्स के रखे थे मैंने यहाँ पे. So that traditionally they are tribal in real sense. They migrate, they start their migration in March and they come back by October. They're the tribals in real sense. And unfortunately, these people, these Chopan community is the only community, I think, they don't own the sheep. They're like those landless laborers. Landless laborer होते हैं ना, वैसे ही उनकी जमीन अपनी नहीं होती, वो खेत में काम करते, वैसे ही इनके जो भेड़ बकरी हो तो अपने नहीं होते इनके. जितने भी मैंने पैस्टरलिस्ट कम्युनिटी देखे हैं, वो अपने भेड़ बकरी इनका अपना होता है. But the Chopan community, they don't own these animals. They belong to the farmers, and each farmer pays them 350 rupees for a season. Season extend वो तकरीबन 6 महीने से लेके 7 महीने तक सीजन हो जाता है, and 350 उसको per season मिलता है, इसको 200, 300, 400. They're very poor people. They are landless people, but unfortunately they have not been included as scheduled tribe community. It's in spite of the fact that Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly passed a resolution in 2000, 22 years back. Until date, कुछ भी नहीं हुआ उसका. The only thing is that it's a very small community, only 3 lakh people in Jammu and Kashmir, very poor people, landless people, homeless people. उनको कोई सोचता नहीं है, and they are not even getting the entitlement under the Forest Rights Act, because after the migration, after the season of migration, they construct temporary hutments at the altitude of 3,500 meters, 3,600 meters, 700 meters. So वो जो hut बनाते हैं वहाँ पे, they make those huts made of wood, rocks and mud. It gets damaged in the snowfall when there is 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet snowfall. Then they again come in the next season. Then Forest Department say, oh, no, we're not going to allow you. Even they are not, some of them are not even allowed to grow the vegetables near the huts. A very pathetic problem, and especially after the enactment of Forest Rights Act in many areas, this has been the Forest Department has been more aggressive now in many areas. So I would request this August gathering that you must also send some recommendation to Minister of Tribal Affairs regarding creating a kind of atmosphere wherein this community would be brought under the ambit of scheduled tribe community, Chopan community, very poor community, and they should be given entitlements under the Forest Rights Act. Thank you so much.
Thank you for keeping it so short and crisp and very bang on. And once again, I take this opportunity of really experiencing a 2-day really lots of information, lots of absorption on this very important topic like forest rights. We have been, of course, working on this area since a long time, but then this 2 days will really lead to a lot of churning at my level, because right from habitat rights to even the pastoralist rights that we just heard are really important and very different concepts that we all need to work on. Let alone that, even the CFR, that is the Community Forest Resources, which are a very integral part of the Forest Rights Act and the movement, we have to, as a society, also work a lot in that direction as well. I am thankful to the department and to SCSTRTA for giving me this opportunity to chair this session. It has been a great learning experience, and thank you for inviting me here, sir. And now I'll just leave because we have a meeting. I am in particular thankful to S.N. Tripathi, sir. I am meeting him after a long time. Thank you, sir, for guiding all along. And also I've met many seniors here. Thank you. And all the best to all of us towards taking this movement along. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Poonam, for chairing the session and for nicely conducting this. Please go ahead and join the meeting. I will join you soon. It is it has been arranged like a conference.
At the anthropological separation. Okay. And anthropological separation is recommended that it would have been scheduled. Yes. Now we are working on it. Let us hope that.
Thank you. Things are taking step.
It's now it takes in case we have to immediately move. A request to Mr. Driver.
Yes, yes.
Secondly, now the resolution that the assembly has taken, the wrong overdue. And
It is not very poor.
I know, when we get it, I don't know how.
It's not representation. 5-6 करे गांव में 5-6 करे गांव
में Thank you, friends. We are not breaking for tea. I think we'll be wrapping up the valedictory session in 10 minutes time. I'll take the opportunity to request S.N. Tripathi sir, who is a known face in Odisha and at other places as well. He is currently the DG IIPA and has been supporting the cause of NTRI and Ministry of Tribal Affairs in a great way, sir. It's my privilege to invite you.
यहाँ से बोल देते हैं. Yes. Respected colleagues, Mr. Ota, and all those whom I am meeting for the first time. I can't speak louder, but
No, sir.
yeah. So let me welcome each one of you once again, maybe by the end of the session. It was great learning even for me, because so many directions. In fact, habitat of ideas of NGOs is much wider than habitat of tribals. That is one learning that I got it today. And second thing, that we all are trying to understand tribals. And that is a very good thing, that so many people are trying to understand tribal and tribal issues. I don't know what reason we are making tribals to understand the government. I don't know, we may not have been having time to make them understand, because our own understanding is so imperfect and so agitational and poor that it will take another century to make tribals to understand what we are trying to understand. Tribals and forests lived in perfect harmony till the acts demanded by activists were not there. We created this problem by demanding it. Now we do not find any solution. Any act creates institution. Any institution creates its own silos, and any silos become dangerous to dare to mark. Maybe we have become victim of that as well. If FRA, PESA, and this Forest Conservation Act, FCA, all three acts are together, you will find that there is nothing common in between, except that forests and tribals should be separated. because both have become threat to each other. If that is the purpose of lawmaking, if that is the purpose of demanding judicial interpreting the role of the state, aren't we on the wrong direction? I'm also a retired civil servant and also understand something of it. And I do know that more the act, merrier the civil society, much more active the judicial interventions, and much less benefit to the tribals whom we are targeting at. I don't know if this is the right occasion, but certainly I will put 2-3 points which could agitate your mind if it can. And it can be reverse the dialogue itself. Is land-based rehabilitation the best rehabilitation of the sun? Only George Washington, who was the first president of United States, he had more land than what he took to acquire. And Witzer started stopping him from acquiring more land. Then he said Witzer should be sent back to UK and United States should become an independent country. I have read that he had about 15,000 hectares of land. Maybe it is my imagination only, or my knowledge may be poor, but I am told that he wanted to have so much of land that even Britishers wanted to hate him. My limited point is that has land-based rehabilitation succeeded anywhere? I'm not questioning the forest right, individual right, community right, or even pastoral right. All rights are okay. Nobody is disturbing. If forest is a problem, forest can be handled. If Gram Sabha is big, Gram Sabha can be enabled and empowered. But each land-based solution is the right option. If each one of you are given 2 acres of land in Kaptipala block, would you like to become great by owning those 2 acres of land? What is the solution we are projecting for the tribals when we don't want ourselves to be the dead solution for our kids and maybe Nathis and for Nathis? The world has grown on based of knowledge, skill, and attitude. Very few people have grown out of assets. We have seen how Rajas and Rajwadas, who had thousands of acres of land, now they are fighting for another Indiravas somewhere, somehow. I'm not against for any reason saying that land is not the best means of rehabilitation. The issues of tribal development are more than land. And solutions are also land plus. Even land minus solution can also be worked out. Target should be development of tribal, not the who owns what piece of land. In any case, land is lying file. In any case, there is no in those lands. Be it with right, with or without right. People with landed aristocracy now they are leaving lands. They require Kisan Samman Nidhi, they require this incentive to cultivate the land. And first we try to tie tribals with tree. Now we are trying to try with them some land which is already unproductive. I'm once again saying with usual disclaimer that I'm not against land-based rehabilitation. But the problem is that if we are wanting development of tribals, the answer is not necessarily land. Are we working on those lines? I haven't heard anyone from speaking on these lines. That's education, nutrition, health. These are as important issues as the land itself. I'm not saying you are not aware. I'm not saying you are hostile to it. I'm not saying that you don't want it. But fact, even there is no activism for giving these things, which government is giving plenty. Why we are working our mind, agitating our mind for Tushtikarana when government is aiming for Triptikarana? Action of all with saturation mode. That means everybody gets house, everybody gets electric connection, everybody gets all the modern means of survival. How many of us are working to see that every tribal house whom we are crying here or we are perhaps working for them, they should get 100% of these benefits, plus then occupy the land also. Is it too much to expect from an intelligent group of people who are assimilated here? Why don't you ensure tribals get all the benefit that government is giving without even asking? 100% housing government is giving. जल में नल देगा, क्या देगा? जितना भी चीजें दे रहा है उसको दिलवाई सबको. They might choose not to take land also. One size fits all doesn't work in India. There is no solution which will work in Coimbatore and Kasipur together and simultaneously. You will not find good DFO, good collectors, good OTAs everywhere. They are just not available. We have with lot of difficulty research in able to produce one OTA and perhaps going to have one more Prime Minister, President of India. For those two are not correlated with each other. Fact remains that it takes time to develop and build institutions. What we are building adversaries instead of providing happy to help attitude institutions. If we remove all the DFOs, DFO, in fact, Forest Service itself came when Antari. Forest Service was created in 1973. Forest Service. IFS. 67. But in 66, there was no such service. Where the tribe was better off? IFS, I'm saying.
Earlier we had from the student promoted to IFS.
In fact, I'm not glorifying when IS started in 1947. That does not mean that there was never a bureaucracy. We had a system where records of right were agreed upon. They were not documented, but people had every freedom to use it. We had a glorious past. We have made an indefinite present by making all these laws. And all these laws and outlaws, they only help in laws. They do not help the tribals for whom they are meant. Second provision that I would like to propose here, that yes, land-based research is okay, but are we doing some research on non-land-based? Will any institution try to do that research and share success stories? I find one NGO who was sharing the success stories, and we were as reluctant to listen that, as if that was hostile news. Unless somebody talks that DFO has to be murdered today, he is not pro-tribal. It is the government which will deliver the development. So none of us else can substitute government. There is no substitute for government. It is easier to criticize, much less to supplement, and it takes a lot of courage to compliment. Why not we create a breed of such thoughts, such success stories, which highlight the success achieved by tribals in whose group you are working? I have seen NGOs in Orissa itself who have become rich and their clients remain poor. I have seen their growth through my own eyes. I've also spent 28 years in this holy land, and I have seen NGOs growing from strength to strength, working for the same poor tribals, and poor tribals remain poor, and some of them may remain non-tribal also. But those who are promoting their cause, they are much better off. I'm not in envious against them, and why should I be? I'm as rich as they are. But how can you become rich by acquiring land in forest areas? Aren't we selling dream which doesn't work? Somebody has to question that, sir. I'm not saying I'm from bureaucratic background, but somebody has to come from academic also, sir. Even if all the committees that are formed in the acts, even if they all become active, do you think tribals will have a better future? The path to development that we are adopting, the road to development that we have adopted, and the right of that development, we have worked a lot on right-based development. And then there is Manrega. The highest rights which is funded fully is in Manrega. All of the rights require justification. So right will not work in a society where per capita income is below 2,000. Only empathy-based, promotional-based, welfare-based, or what we call it saturation-based approach will work, because all boats will rise if there is enough water in the river. What we are doing to protect the river itself. Today, forests are dying. Even if we give entire forest to the community, to the grounds of what they will do. They can't even make it 4 rounds of that forest area. 3,000 acres of land, they are not able to guard their own house, and they will guard the forest. There are fairy tales that will give me that all those things. In any case, those forests are there in our community. If Bakarwas are coming with all those exotic varieties of donkeys and cows and things, they are enjoying those rights. Who is preventing them? But we are trying to romanticize that all that they lived is so good that they need to do that. And my proposition is that they must do something different. We have tried for 74 years in protecting to them to be presented to 26th Republic because they are very good, we are different. Why not take up next 75 year in 2047? A tribal should look like this. What is your dream that tribal should be in 2047? Another 25 year, what we should do? What development we have, what development model we have adopted for scheduled caste? What development model we adopted for OBCs? What development model we adopted for Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and other rest of India, who are also happen to be human beings? And is the development model that we are adopting and suggesting for tribal, is it working in the situation that we are trying to project them? I may be sounding outlandish right now, but think over it. If your direction is wrong, speed doesn't matter. हम बोलते हैं ना कुत्ता कितनी तेज दौड़े उसकी पूंछ के साथ दौड़ती है, cannot catch its tail. Our development model that we are suggesting, which is right-based, land-based, forest-based, entire forest right, and forest itself is dwindling. The three global problems are inequality, rising income inequality, climate crisis, technological disruption, and what we are fighting that हमारे area का 3 किलोमीटर हमारे अंदर आना चाहिए, and therefore should not be allowed to enter. As if people can face tigers, but they can't face barefoot. Are we over-romanticizing such things? It has become academics. I mean, I'm also joining new academics, so I can also bat for them that academics enjoyed all these outlandish ideas in their writing papers and books. Is that the option available even to the bureaucrats who are supposed to deliver? We have to think differently. We have to think different things, and we have to deliver differently. We have to imagine what tribals will do in 2047 and what 25 years Ministry of Tribal Affairs, State Tribal Department, and all of us should do to make it happen. When we want to adopt whole of government and whole of society, everybody will develop equally. At least the average will improve. Today we are trying to segregate, further segregate, and so much of segregation that ultimately will reduce to the number which India invented for the world. And what is that? And we will not find out those 3 zeros which Muhammad Yunus is trying to highlight. We should have zero poverty, we should have zero unemployment, and we should have zero climate crisis. And all these 3 zeros are achievable. In Athabira block, we haven't given everybody 1 acre of land. We only gave 100% irrigation. Athabira, every tribal, every human being is better off. Kotpath, we did not do it, everybody is not good, better off. Same is situation in other area. Should we not change the dialogue of delivery of development for tribals, right from right-based or land-based or forest-based to any other base so that right of forest and land becomes secondary? Because in any case, they are not giving good income for them, that they can even live happily, much less about satisfaction. I always say that for a good living, you require a lot of things, but for happy living, you don't require a lot of things. I must thank each one of you for giving me a chance. I know this has been not the right thing to speak in the end. Had I spoken in the morning, perhaps the agitated mind could have responded differently. Today, you can't even question me. So I'm a very, very big advantage of right now. In any case, bureaucrats can't be questioned. Retired bureaucrats can never be questioned. Because what did you do when you were there in the past? I know nobody wants to give power to some other person. And nobody will give. Nobody wants to delegate. And within that 3 constants, what best we can suggest so that it becomes palpable even to the MOTA, even to the state tribal ministries, and does not look like activist jhanda uncha rahe hamara. This attitude has not helped us. I'm only suggesting that let's be positive, think positive, deliver positively, and think differently. Thank you very much for giving me time.
That also, but I'm ready.
Thank you, sir, for your views, which is absolutely, your personal views. But, let me, since I have to speak, before I extend vote of thanks, you see, we have been listening to 5 very, very, thrilling technical sessions where we heard at least 25 to 30 presentations, and people who are working at the ground level, we have heard from them, who are working with the community. Even the community people themselves also, our Toda brother also spoke. States represented by government officials also made presentation. Policy makers also came, because the Institute of Policy Research in New Delhi also had come. IAFM, our friend Professor Amitabh Pandey had come. Niti Aayog, the Deputy Advisor, Dr. He also came. Our former Planning Commission Senior Advisor, who looked after tribal matters for more than 25 years, also deliberated. Union Secretary also spoke. Let me tell you the very purpose as to why we had organized this workshop was to deliberate on the Act, Forest Right Act, which has been promulgated by Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Government of India, as a central act, and which is implemented for last 16 years or so. The mandate that was given to us was to identify, to find out how it is getting implemented, where it is, what are the good practices. We saw good practices also. We have to identify from the experience sharing where the shoe pinches, means where are the gaps. And on the basis of that, we have been asked to submit to Ministry of Tribal Affairs the areas of concern and also a possible roadmap, not to be done on our own, on the basis of the observations that our esteemed panelists presented. So with this mandate, I'm not going to repeat what has been discussed. We have recorded everything, starting from the J&K issue, while in all other states and union territories, the Tribal Development Department is the nodal department. There, the Forest Department has been made the nodal department. Apart from that, we came across of very good practices of Arch Bahini in Gujarat, which all of us, applauded. It's a replicable model. Some good practices from Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and various concerns that also have come up from many, many presenters. We have recorded it. The audio recording and video recording also we have done. We also have, recorded the minutes straight away. In another 10 to 15 days time, we'll be farming up the proceedings to suggest the recommendations and areas of concern to the Government of India. We will be doing by 25th of this month, that I committed when Secretary gave me a message 1 hour back. Friends, when we see an act, the appropriateness of the act, definitely Sir deliberated. He is my guru, and he is guru of so many gurus. So I am not going to debate him. But then we are discussing the very existing act how to take it forward and where we are. And we have, sir, discussed within the mandate that was given to us, and we are going to submit the considered views of the panelists and experts. The issue which you said, sir, whether land-based, non-land-based rehabilitation or non-land-based livelihood is possible or not, certainly non-land-based livelihood is possible. But when the possibilities are there and the Act provides the provisions, I think we have to look out for that. For example, somebody spoke about pastoralists and all that. And, there is no land there available, but the Act is in place. And land cannot be settled in their name, or even in, Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. Forest Right Act is there, but it is not admissible for n number of people. In such a case, certainly, non-land-based rehabilitation, non-land-based livelihood possibilities should be explored. While we should take advantage of the Forest Right Act 2006, which has been deliberated for long 20-25 years before it came to floor, we should take advantage of that, but we should not overemphasize on the requirement of land by the tribals, taking the plea that Forest Right Act is available. We have seen in many cases, the reason as to why 50 to 60% applications are getting rejected is basically for that. There are many non-entitled persons who are applying, which they are not entitled to. We should not be romanticizing and, just to take the name of, Forest Right Act, we should name since they are not, qualifying for that. But sir, I take your suggestion. Definitely non-land-based livelihood is possible. But when possibility is there and entitlement is there under the ambit of the Act, I think by all means we should try to do that without overemphasizing on it. Friends, I take this opportunity to extend my sincere gratitude to one and all, particularly, at the last moment, one day before the, WhatsApp began, I contacted sir, the DGIIPS at the party, and he immediately agreed to that, sir. I extend my gratitude to you, sir, for kindly accepting our invitation and for coming over. And I'm not, taking the name of each one of you, but I'm extending my gratitude to each one of you for attending this workshop patiently for 2 days, relentlessly. And also I extend my gratitude to Union Secretary, Sri Anil Kumar Jha, who despite his busy touring could make out time, sir, today for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and who addressed all of us and who encouraged us to see that something comes out of this workshop. I extend my gratitude to UNDP for partnering with us to make this, workshop a success. I also take this opportunity to, extend sincere thanks to all my colleagues from our TRI who have given a very big helping hand to make it a success. It will not be proper on my part if I don't, extend my gratitude to all the TRIs who have been, accessing this, workshop, including the NTRI, who have also made their, presence here. And lastly, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Ministry of Tribal Affairs for supporting this workshop, and Director FRA, the Director TRI, the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and all those who have attended this workshop and who have supported this workshop. I'm sure this workshop outcome will be huge because we'll be flagging most of the recommendations which have a reason to be recommended. Ministry is looking for why things are getting slowed down so far as implementation of FRA in the country is concerned. So let us try to have many more such workshops on FRA in various parts of the country to be hosted by various other TRIs. I am sure if we discuss, deliberate, and make churning, many new ideas and many new frontiers will come, which will make this epoch-making act a great success. Thank you, and thank you so much. We have given, not small pieces, little bigger pieces of, little bigger pieces of, painting to you. Those of you who will find difficulty in carrying it, you can leave it with us with your postal address, and I will see that they will be couriered properly so as to reach your places. And before we give the mic to Professor Rai, I would like to present the memento to 3 or 4 persons whom it has not been given. I'm sure they will find it difficult in taking it to their place. I am going to send it back to them, but then it will be my privilege to felicitate them. Next. Thank you. It is over, but then
Friends, it is privileges. Actually, on behalf of all the participants for organizing this great seminar, maybe CST, DRI. Yes, we opened our eyes. I have been trying the same in our Tamil Nadu, the land-based activities. We tried education, 350 persons not employed. Because 1% of reservation for the tribals in Tamil Nadu, they are unable to get any jobs. So again, they have to depend on the land rights. So we have to think what he has said, but still we have to see what the other source of income. Thank you.
Friends, this is just expression of feeling from core of our heart.
I'm sure you too must be feeling the warmth which we have received from all, right from, I cannot say, a different layer to the leader of the organization, Dr. Ota. And why I wanted to share, everyone has said thank, I will also say that. I want to put in record, this workshop has been a milestone. It has been a milestone. We have been working on this issue for a number of years. But Professor Ota will also appreciate that we have been interacting on several issues in the research. But this workshop has many things which were not discussed with such a length. I'm not saying the issues because this has been covered, only especially the milestone. Now, what I wanted to share that if all of you agree, we can have a follow-up, and those who will volunteer to contribute on some of the issues which was raised, it could be included maybe within the shortest time frame. Otherwise it will not be there. So thank you so much. And may I request, although I cannot stand, but from my heart, may I request all of you to have a standing ovation to
You have been always a guiding force. In fact, though it is over, I'll just speak for a minute. Ministry has given the mandate to my institute, combination with Ibrad. We are, examining all the acts and policies, provisions, schemes of the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. And wisely, tribal development is taking a backseat. What should be the convergence approach? We have been asked to, develop a report and submit it in the form of on saturation mode. And we are already through, in drafting the report and checking it several times, involving so many people, probably 50, 60 experts we have consulted and we have been doing. Since this WhatsApp, and I tell him, Dada, Professor Roy has said, we discussed even yesterday evening also. I think we will be sharing this in a willing group who are willing to come up voluntarily. But we are already behind schedule, so that we can finish up things and can still submit by 31st of July. We will get back to you. Raktima is there, Sarai is there, I'm there, and Sweta is there. So I think we'll be getting in touch very quickly, and we'll be reaching out to all those who are interested can join us to give a finality to the report, because so many things have come up. I think this report will be incomplete without incorporating some of them at least. Thank you. Thank you so much.